Tommy, I want to get into a little bit more when it comes to Mercedes. And you said something just before the break, and we had DDP on about that you assume that they're setting up for the fans to just dislike Mercedes right now. It has to be, right, Tommy? I mean, I understand Mercedes came in with a lot of fanfare. We're going to see her in the ring for the first time at Double or Nothing going up against Willow Nightingale, but you would think that they're setting her up to be a heel, correct, Tommy?
I think, when we've talked about this before with Tony, it's also like, hey, we kind of let the fans choose. I think the fans will choose to boo her from those promos. Um, and it's been kind of a wait and see with her because she can't wrestle. Now we know when she's going to wrestle, what she's going to do. And I did enjoy her promo. I also enjoyed that she says she thrives when she is in the ring. And guess what? That's kind of truth. She always has pretty damn good matches. Look forward to that match. We love Willow. We're undecided slash not liking Mercedes. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. They do have a story. They do have a history. They had a bit of a build that, you know, it's best that Mercedes went away just because, like we've discussed before, if you can't compete right now, why keep showing you? Her build was perfect, I thought, last night. She talked like, and what did she also refer to herself as? A bitch. And I think we're going to see that the CEO be a bitch and all the stuff with the money and all that stuff. You're going to have, people, I feel, in that arena boo her out of the building, and rightfully so. And if you're a heel, you want that because when you also said she's the biggest heel in AEW. She's not. Christian is the biggest heel in the industry right now. And AEW is blessed to have him. If you listen, and younger wrestlers should listen to how he controlled a crowd, even when at times they were booing him. I mean, I'm sorry, cheering him, how he turned it. And yes, it's the easy way to go the local hockey team, but he does it in a way better way. I also enjoyed that segment. I did not see that swerve coming. And then again, I said this whole show set a lot of good stuff up where when Christian comes to the back and he talks to Nicholas and Matthew, look forward to doing further business with you. Like I said, there I 100% can see Christian as world champion. And not that it's taking away from Swerve's run, but there's some interesting aspects about this where because people are like, oh, this will be an easy victory for Swerve. Not at all. This will get Swerve over to higher point of his career. Again, when we're talking about heels and baby faces, we are positioning Swerve as our top babyface champion, and it's working. So, I've there's a lot of great setup to happen. And then for a setup, then you also need absolute execution. I never worry about stuff that's in the ring. I worry about the details. But so far, I like everything where it's going.
Yeah, and you said something again that's very interesting, Tommy, because you just said that with Tony Khan, he kind of throws his talent out there in some circumstances and lets the fans decide. Tommy, I've said, and I've been very critical when it comes to AEW, that a lot of times I don't know who are the baby faces and who are the heels. A lot of fans that come back to me and said, hey, we don't want to be force fed who we're supposed to
Correct.
cheer for and who we're supposed to boo. We want to be able to choose ourselves. That's an interesting way to go about it. And I'll use Mercedes as that example. I don't think that Tony Khan got Mercedes thinking that, all right, she's going to be a heel. She brought her in. There was a lot of fanfare about Mercedes coming in. Obviously, there was a lot of criticism when it came to the WWE, the way that Mercedes left, Sasha Banks left the WWE. I'm sure that the game plan was to have her be one of the biggest babyface wrestlers in the women's division. That is not the case right now. I was actually interested, Tommy. I wish that backstage interview was out in front of the crowd, because I would love to have gauged what the crowd felt about Mercedes last night. It was a pretty hot crowd. It was a pretty big crowd. I wonder if they would have cheered Mercedes or booed Mercedes. Because, man, it's the little things that Mercedes says that bothers the shit out of me. Here she is. She's talking about Willow and that she's 18 days away from, making her AEW in-ring debut. And then she throws in there, but you know what? I'll be courtside at the Celtics game and, this weekend, and I'll be throwing out the first pitch at the Red Sox game. It's like, all right, who gives a shit? Like I'm only concerned about that match that you're having with Willow at Double or Nothing. She throws those little lines out there that gets under my skin. So I feel like you're right. When she makes her in-ring debut at Double or Nothing against Willow, she's going to get booed by that 7,000 or 8,000 people that are going to be in that arena that night.
If I take it from their past, Paige coming back, it was one of the greatest stories of all time.
Yeah.
We never thought we'd see her wrestle again. Well, and she was coming in, and then promo turned her heel. And even where it was like, it's how dare you say this is your house where you didn't do anything here, instantly turned her heel when we were supposed to make this woman a babyface. Then what did they do? They embraced it. And the other part where it's interesting, where you said last night you saw a different reaction with Serena Deeb when she came out there, and I thought her promo was awesome. Her and Shivani. And what did the fans start doing? Because they weren't really into it. They started chanting, "Let's go Oilers." And we had this uncomfortable moment where it's like, oh, these people are turning, which means they're not interested in what they're saying. And what did she do? She waited, and then she told her real life story about having seizures and all that stuff. And people are like, oh, we're assholes for doing that. But then they start chanting Tony Storm. And then when, here comes Tony, they cheer her. When you put people out in front of the audience, it could change. And you have to be able to, I thought Serena Deeb handled herself like a professional. And the crowd's going to like who they like. The end of it, when she knocked out Tony Storm and Tony Storm played it. Why? Because Tony Storm is such an over-the-top character. I said the same thing with Chelsea Green. And then I watched it with 2 nights ago, and I was like, there is her perfect Robin, Ariana Grace. That's the pairing you need.
Yep.
Because you now have somebody, or at least put that all three women together, because you have like a person who's totally buying in to what this woman is saying. Back to live audience. A live audience can change you in a heartbeat. If that was out there, I don't know if you would get that. I also don't know if Mercedes Moné was actually there. That could have been done last week. But what I'm saying is, I don't know if it has that reaction with her if she's out there, because it was a very, very good delivered promo. But in front of a live audience, I don't know how that you'd react to that. Or I'm not saying you, I'm saying her, Mercedes Moné.
With Mercedes, I don't know. That's a great question, because you just talked about Serena Deeb. Another one, was Christian. When Christian was getting those "Let's go Oiler" chants, and he just drove right through it to the point where it just died down, because the fans are like, all right, he's not reacting to this at all. It's not throwing him off at all. He's not pausing to let us get the words in. So it just stopped, because Christian wouldn't let it, impede his momentum at all. So he drove straight through those chants, and finally the fans just kind of gave up on it because it wasn't working. I don't know how those chants would have been with Mercedes. I have a feeling you're probably right, Tommy. If Mercedes cut that promo in front of a live crowd, you probably get those "Let's go Oiler" chants, because I have not yet once heard Mercedes on the microphone in AEW be real at all. It's extremely on the surface. It's extremely like feels like WWE overscripted promos. Like I don't get any kind of like real emotion from Mercedes at all. Even when she's trying to be emotional, it comes off just forced or it comes off fake. Like last night where she's like, am I down? Do I think I can't do it? Well, of course not. I'm Mercedes Moné. And in 18 days, I'm going to wipe that smile off of Willow Nightingale's face. It's like, ugh. That sounds so fake and so scripted. It's so on the surface. It's got to be that. It's got to be the fact that she's trying to get these fans to go against her. At least I hope it is, because if she's really trying to get the fans to rally behind her, it ain't working. It ain't working.
Well, like I said, time will tell when she walks out there. I think she'll get a star reaction when she goes out there, and I think she'll get the people behind her into the match with her and Willow. But I do think she will be the heel in this, and it's 17 days away to see what happens. On the other part of that, you could also kind of lean into that. Look at Jericho, man. Jericho is a master. The wave, the thanking people, the passive aggressiveness of Chris Jericho, the over the top in his promos are getting him over. Because what is it, like 3 weeks ago? Everyone was saying, please retire and boo. And now you're all in on it, where he has manipulated it because he's so great and putting Big Bill with him as well. And I would like to see 2 more people and have a group. Why you're not going to do it now? Because you have a group called the Elite, and they're the top people. Leave Jericho with Big Bill right now, because now, like, I've said forever, Jericho can reinvent himself in an instant, and he already has by tapping into that stuff. And he did, and it worked, because we're no longer saying the things that we were saying, and we're like, and I'm even hearing people cheer for him, and even him thanking them. It was like, you're idiots, because that's what he wanted.
But I love the fact too, because obviously a lot of people on social media is like, Jericho's on my TV every week. Give that TV time to
I'd
somebody
love
else.
to be there for the next 2 hours. I love it.
He's like, yeah. I know, for the people saying that, I'm on here every single week. I'm making an appearance every week and complaining. I'm complaining too. I want to be on here the whole 2 hours. Like, that was perfect. Like, he's
Brilliant.
so good at this very small things. Like you said, the waving, it's perfect, because you're right. What he's eventually going to do, Tommy, he's going to turn everybody around. You're seeing it already. There's people that it's just impossible for them to boo Jericho. Why? Because he's getting over, whether it's getting over as a babyface or getting over as a heel. What Jericho always does, he gets his character over, and he's getting the learning tree over. Again, something that sounds so outrageous, he's getting it over in a big way. And eventually it's gonna get everybody else over that's with him.
Wishing Hook the best of luck in his recovery. Can't wait to see you. Like, all that stuff is phenomenal. Like, so that's why I lean into it. I thought this was a great show to set everything up for where you want to go. And there is a lot of really, really good stuff where you want to go.